Welcome back to episode number 9 of the Tasting Room. We're getting close to 2 hands.
We are getting close to 2 hands.
2 hands. Jazz hands.
That's,
Jazz hands.
Yay!
Yeah. Andrew Jolly from Doubleshot Coffee Company is our guest today. A lot of passionate talk about not only coffee, but just community and pushing things forward and just all sorts of stuff.
And just life and engagements.
Yeah.
And really an essence of, why Tulsa is a compassionate and a passionate city that really takes care of everyone within the neighborhood.
Absolutely. And this one's a little bit on the longer side, close to
2
hours. So we're just going to go ahead and get right to it. On the other side of the break, you see him coming in right now. Andrew Jolly. Stay tuned.
Cheers.
Hey, I'm John. I'm one of the partners here at Grassfire Creative. We are a production company. We do animation, video production, live production, anything you need to creatively tell both your story and your business's story. Along with the content that we create, we also provide the strategy behind how to get it in front of the eyeballs that matter to you. We're located right in the middle of the United States in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so no matter where you are, we're just a short flight away. Bottom line is we are very excited to both meet you and tell your business's story. Please do reach out to us one of the ways below via email or phone number and check out more about us at our website, grassfirecreative.com.
Welcome to the Tasting Room, and thank you for being here. We have a lovely friend that...
friend of the show,
yeah,
we could say.
Andrew Jolly from Doubleshot.
Thanks.
Welcome to the
coolest business card. Because it says, the governor?
Yeah.
The governor of Doubleshot?
Oh, that's really cool.
It still says governor. Although I feel like that title should be retired maybe a little bit, maybe a mild amount, just because there have been so many others who have joined the team.
Fair.
So who knows what my next
elevated
iteration
above governor though? Like maybe you're the attorney general.
I'm the York of York, the York of Doubleshot.
Well, before we start, congratulations, newly engaged.
Yeah. So
Andrew
I've heard
Jolly.
through the grapevine.
I am.
Are you still on cloud 12 or are you back down to reality?
I'm not gonna lie, guys. It's easily the most surreal experiance of my life.
Sure,
absolutely.
Tell us a story. How'd you do it? How'd it happen? Come on.
I won't go crazy into detail because it is a long story, but Natalie and I have been together for 5 years now.
Okay, we were debating that before.
I didn't know how long. I thought it was the whole time I've known you, but it was close.
It's
so
pretty
5
darn
years.
close.
Yeah.
I mean, you met us when one of our first or second vacations
I moved here
together.
in 11.
Yeah, I was going to say
it was close.
We went whenever we went and met you in Denver. It was
Yeah,
probably I think our second vacation together, maybe even our first. We've done so many things together. It's kind of run together.
And time flies.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so we've been together for about 5 years, and I knew that on her 30th birthday, I wanted to pop the question, make it a thing. And I worked with Dylan Rose here in town in Tulsa. Rachel did such an amazing job designing the ring. I am blown away with what I was able to do. I was able to sit down with her, have a custom engagement ring put together based off of 5 years worth of notes.
It looked different
cool.
too because it was darker, right?
I did all sapphires, and I picked out every stone, and it's 18 karat gold, so the gold itself has a different texture. I only say this, I didn't know any of this until I sat down with Rachel, and she was like, "Well, here's what this looks like. Here's what this looks like." And here's the differences. Some people prefer this because she's incredible. Working with her was probably
awesome.
Easily one of the comfortable experiences I've ever had. When it comes to doing nice things and curating something nice, highly recommend that for anybody if possible. It was awesome. But designed that with hair custom because I had some very specific things that I knew Natalie wanted. I was able to go to Philbrook. I worked with Seth Barnett. Seth shoots film on Instagram. He was able to kind of set me up for the perfect proposal situation. We met at Philbrook, and he was like, "Oh, hey, bud, good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a while." I was like, "Oh, Seth, good to see you. What are you doing
Crazy
here?"
running into you here.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, "Well, I'm just taking some photos. Looks pretty good around here. Thought I'd get some shots. I've never been to this event and want to take some photos." And he's like, "Well, I got my camera here. Can I get a little shot of you guys?" And I was like, "Oh, well, of course, bud. Oh, thank you. That's very thoughtful. And tried to play it off like it was very normal. And me and Natalie went. We got one single picture together, and then Seth was like, "Oh, I got to take a second one. First one didn't turn out, or let's get me one more just to make sure." And on the second one is when I popped the question.
Awesome.
It was
That's awesome.
Surreal experience. I'm not gonna lie, guys. Like, I'm very pumped about that.
And the entire time you're standing there, I imagine the heart is
I mean,
just 150
I
miles
don't
an
even
hour.
know how to like explain. I think I blacked out.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
You know, Natalie was asking me.
She actually said no.
She said no, and I just said just put that ring on the finger. Said, right, got it.
Right,
you know?
right. Oh, that's funny.
I mean, he did great. Rachel did great making that ring. Like all of my goals and intentions like came to life with designing that ring with her. And then Katie, which you guys have already had on your podcast, was like hosted us at American Solera for a little after party.
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
30th
cool.
birthday and a little surprise engagement party for her and for some of the guests involved. So
That's
I didn't
awesome.
tell either of our mothers. And
Oh, how cool.
That's
man.
cool.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm literally still coming down from it. It's easily one of the most surreal and exciting experiences of my life.
You guys are both
I
great
appreciate
people.
you guys asking me about it. Like, it means a lot.
You're
Like,
both great
yeah.
people, and it's cool to see great people
Yeah.
like together. It's just a cool thing.
well, that seriously means a lot, guys. Thank you for
course.
bringing that up. That's super thoughtful. And
Of course, we got to lead with the biggest news.
Oh,
you know?
That's right.
So as we get started with Austin's question, I know you brought some hot liquid, so let's
I did.
pour some coffee
I did.
first. Tell
Before-
us what you brought.
So I went ahead and before I came here, I made a pour over for you guys. Both of you have been in my shop, and I'm sure this is something you've had before, but maybe some of the viewers aren't familiar with some of the things that we do. But Doubleshot Coffee Company, we roast all of our own coffee and we source all of our own coffee as well. So anything that we curate there is something that we have specifically purchased so that we could make sure that we're giving you the best coffee experience through our lens of what we think good coffee looks like. And this is, I think, probably one of the coolest things that we've done. So what I brought today is our Colombia Maduro. This comes from Hacienda El Boton in Colombia, produced by Ariel Montoya. He's the producer. And this is a coffee that is specifically produced for us by Hacienda El Boton. And I wanted to bring it because I think it is probably the best representation of us as a company in terms of the ideas that we want to represent when it comes to working with a producer. Typically in Colombia, you don't always see naturals or dry processed coffees as this one is being produced on a commercial scale. A lot of that has to do with specialty coffee regulation for what's being exported out of Colombia. I think a lot of things have changed since we first produced this back in, I think, 2009, I think was the first iteration of this production of crop and being harvested and turned into roastable coffee, if you will, this way. I think that's the easiest way to translate harvesting coffee and making it something you can roast is you take it from its fruit form and you take the seed, which is the coffee bean is the coffee seed, and you turn it into something you can roast. And depending on the way that you do that, you will get I would say, an aggressively different coffee. No matter how, like whether you separate it by mechanical separation, whether you do it by in its whole cherry form and then separate it and then allow it to be roasted, or if you do it in a myriad between the two. There's a couple different methodologies, and there's so many little nuances between here and there.
So it will actually change the flavor.
Oh, absolutely.
If you do it by hand or by mechanical form.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. And while I'm talking about that, I'll go ahead and start pouring some coffee for you guys to taste, because I think this will give us a really good representation of what we're trying to do. So coffee's a fruit. It grows on trees, and it grows in a cherry. So like most fruits, if not all fruits, I can only think of a few examples like plantains are good to eat unripe. I like unripe plantains, roasting them, making tostones with those. I don't know if you guys...
Chef Jolly coming in over here.
I wish I could have brought
Tostones.
some. That would have been great.
That would have been.
Patacones, tostones. I think there's really not very many fruits that you would eat or want to have like unripened.
Cheers, bud.
Cheers to you guys.
Cheers. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. Ripe fruit is the normal, like where it's at.
Yeah, I think coffee is a lot like that. If you harvest coffee when it's unripe, it's going to taste like unripe fruit in the cup, no matter how you roast it. It will taste literally, and I think you guys can understand what I mean when I say the word like something tastes green.
Yeah.
I think we, as a brewer, I'm sure that comes across in hops.
In a lot of different ways, yeah.
And it comes across in coffee as well. Like underripe coffee, when roasted, it'll taste like underripe fruit. It'll be overly bright. Will not have developed sweetness, because I mean that's really where this comes from. You know, like we want coffee that is ripens slowly. That's why you see people talking about and bragging about, whether it's somebody that's like the Doubleshot Coffee Company or any other company you see. Like sometimes you even see this on commercial grade things in the store where they're like, this is shade grown coffee.
Right.
Shade grown is something you would kind of have desirable in some fruits and vegetables because it allows for longer sugar development, which would produce a sweeter cup or a sweeter product in the end game. So coffee is the same exact way. So we grow coffee cherries on coffee trees. They are ripened to the crux of ripeness. That's actually where the namesake of this coffee comes from. Maduro just means ripe. You see that same word come across in like cigar production as well. It just means like very mature tobacco leaves. It's the same thing with coffee. Like when we talk about Maduro, it just means ripe fruit. Is what we're really referring to. And the first time that we ever, or one of the first times we ever produced this fruit, and we were kind of communicating about like what we expected from it. And when we were, and really honestly, when I think maybe some of us, maybe not necessarily Brian Franklin, owner operator of Doubleshot Coffee, but maybe myself and other people that were involved, we were talking about, you know, the difference between Maduro and Pinton, which is Pinton is like half ripe. It's like fruit that like is partially green, partially red, and maybe in some coffee production situations, like in commercial coffee production, which every coffee bean has a home, it has to have a home. Farmers have to have an opportunity to be able to sell their coffee, whether it is in certain markets, and many farmers all across the world produce coffees that are both sold on the specialty grade market and on commodity markets, because I mean there just has to be a home for all these things, you know, and you have to be able to produce something for certain aspects of stuff, and that's not unusual.
And how many times can you harvest in a year, or how many times is the coffee bean able to be taken off the tree?
I mean, that is an awesome question, actually, and kind of more of so harvesting coffee is a unique situation.
I was going to guess once a year.
Once a year, I think of it as a period of time as opposed to one pass, like where you would go through your field and harvest everything from the field and let it go.
Okay.
Think of it as a period of time is how coffee harvesting works. So basically, whenever we're harvesting coffee, we do it in waves because everything doesn't ripen on the coffee tree at the same rate.
That makes sense.
Coffee trees take a long time to reach production maturity, close to 5 years, if not longer, to where we can have something in. And granted, you have to remember, this is like we are planting plots and fields worth of coffee trees to reach production, like something where it can be sold to us in 130 pound, 152 or 98 pound bags, depending on how extensive some of the production or yield or grading some of this stuff is. You know, some of our higher end coffees come to us in very small quantities. And then things like Maduro, which we're going to buy a whole harvest of, you know, those will come in large scale coffee production bags, you know, anywhere from, like I said, 130, 150, 112. Different countries produce different sizes of bags, so it kind of depends on where you're getting things from. And even then, like what I quoted might be totally, totally
it paints a picture.
But I think you guys get what the point I'm making here. But with Maduro, you know, what we've done here is we've done what's called a dry process coffee, and it's all harvested ripe and then dried ripe. And it's kind of difficult to do because, you know, what we brought up is coffee harvesting. You have to send waves of hand pickers. Like literally it's a job that, you know, a lot of workers, they'll spend a period of time on one farm and then they'll go spend a period of time on another farm.
Have you done that when you went to visit the farms? Did you pick it
I've
up?
only done it from like a gringo's perspective.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
I
Like,
showed up, and I like, I mean, like, I'm not doing anything like what
They're
actual
like,
workers do.
you're so cute.
Yeah, I mean, they like knock it out of the park, but because nothing ripens at the same rate. I mean, you've got this big tree with long, gangly limbs, and they grow in clusters, but they don't ripen at the same rate. So you
within
have
the cluster?
even within the cluster, yeah, you'll have, so you'll go through these fields of stuff, and you'll see trees that have like the bottom half of them is ripe and the top half is not ripe at all. It's all green. And so pickers will come through. They will pick specifically only the cherries. Like it's also a very specific technique that like takes time to learn. Like when I've gone and done it, like I'm slow.
So why isn't all coffee more expensive then? If it's such a
That's a great question,
right,
John.
if it's such an arduous task and like such a, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, like sweat equities type job,
right,
right?
you're totally right.
Yep.
I mean, I'm assuming it's because it's in a different country and they don't pay those workers the amount that you would if it was in America. Probably has something to do with it.
I think that has a lot to do with it, and that's something that I feel like we try to be very intentional about. Is
Conscientious of.
like
Yeah, you charge. I feel like what is the proper amount for coffee that has that kind of a story and everything that
Yeah.
comes with it.
it and even then it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Like even then, like we probably we have to eat a little bit of the cost compared to the customer eating the cost, because I mean we have to make sure that the people that we're working with, and we try to work with the same producers consistently. Like we've been working with Hacienda Bourbon since before I worked there, and I've been there with the company for almost 10 years. And Brian has been working with Ariel for forever, and I know we can trust Ariel, and he's going to always produce coffee that's high end and great for us. We've been working with places like Finca El Tambor out of Guatemala for a long time. Hacienda La Manita out of Costa Rica, and their sister
like their
farm,
coffee,
down south, Hacienda Rio Negro, is located on the southern border of Costa Rica and Panama. We're working with Finca Hartman, some of the most renowned coffee producers in Panama. I'm working with them for a long time, as well as a small boutique family that has been doing some incredible work in specialty coffee, Finca Bambito, in the Bambito region of Panama. I would be lying though if I said that we didn't just like. I mean, we buy good coffee from who's going to give us good coffee. I mean, we still buy from brokers. Sure, we still have people that we have connections with that can give us coffee. It's been difficult for us to be able to have like a relationship with a producer in Ethiopia, not out of necessarily like people are unavailable for us to contact, but that's just not a area of the world that we have had the time to create relationships with and meet somebody or meet someone who knows several people and individuals within those regions. We do have brokers that we feel comfortable working with and we think are doing the right things. It's hard for us to buy from, we don't buy really from a lot of groupings of people. Try to buy from very select pathways so that we know exactly what's happened with things. We know where it's coming from. We know who we're working with, and we know how the coffee is produced. I imagine it's a lot like anything else when it comes to getting down to the dirty details. Like you have to make sure that every little detail is where you want it, whether that's like beer production or I would say anything with media, making sure that every person that has a job on every step of the production line is doing the job the way you would think it would be done. And that's really the only reason we can only work with specific producers, because without knowing exactly what they do from point A to point Z, I think coffee has so much. I think coffee, beer, food production, like every restaurant industry thing has this kind of like Wizard of Oz, like man behind the curtain situation going on.
100%.
And that's like something I really don't want for my customers or for anybody that works with me, whether it's like a wholesale client or it's somebody who is coming in to buy a cup of coffee, whether it's what I just pour from the drip machine or something I make on the espresso machine or a pour over bar. I want them to have something that is transparent, whether that's like a conversation that they can understand like the first time we talk about it or not.
Right.
I would rather go ahead and just assume that most people are smart and want to talk about important things and want to talk about important parts of the food they consume, the drinks they consume.
I get that.
and just share with them like, this is where your coffee comes from. And I don't understand, or I don't see any reason why coffee can't cost the same thing as like a really well-produced bottle of wine. And the thing with that is like, you're going to drink a bottle of wine within like 24, 48 hours, in my opinion. I would
Usually.
ideally, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Otherwise,
Some people cellar it, but usually.
well, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're opening something that day, you're going to drink it within a short period of time.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happens with coffee, where coffee has a finite life that is accessible. You could drink it much later after its roast date if you'd like. I don't think you're going to get the same example of what their intentions were when they roasted it, the roaster. But I don't see how it's much different than buying high-end wine, where there was a producer who had an intention and specifically did one thing or one style of thing with their wine, and wanted to have an end result that when someone had it in their hands, they did something with it. And I think coffee is a lot of the same way, but I don't necessarily know as like an American consumer culture, we're ready for that all across the board. There are many of us that are and have been and are readily a part of that culture.
Right.
And that's not to say that there's really anything inherently wrong with consumer culture about coffee that doesn't meet those needs, because there has to be a window of opportunity, right? Like we have to find a gateway drug, right, for people.
Sure.
And I think that if people don't have something that kind of bridges that gap all the time, or if we're not willing as the ambassadors, like that's what my job really is, like as a barista, which or a wholesale representative. That's really my job, is to be an ambassador for all these things, so that people can understand like how important it is, because somebody all the way in Colombia doesn't have a voice to share with, you know, the American consumer, like right here, right now. I mean, they do. Like now that we've reached a conglomerated like world communication status, but that's not what people are going to do. Like within the 5 to 10 minutes that maybe they're inside my shop buying coffee, or inside someone's brewery buying beer. You know? And I think it's so important that you have an ability to communicate those needs and those.
I agree
reason
with
that's
that,
so special, but not everybody's ready for that, and it takes a lot of coaching.
Yeah,
sure.
Which I don't doubt you guys have been.
Right. No.
So that kind of
you're
leads
spot
me
on.
into
Pour a beer while you're asking your question too. Yeah. Whatever you want to start with.
So the question that I had in mind when I was coming over here was, you've kind of already led into this question.
Thank you so much.
But how do you think Tulsa, because Tulsa's done a really great job of breaking down those barriers, of teaching people about coffee, and really being a pretty cultural hub for roasters specifically. How do you think Tulsa became that? And because there is a lot of,
that's a good point.
There's
some good
best
coffee shops in a relatively small town.
Very. I've been all over the world, and some of the best roasters are here in Tulsa, in the world. And you guys would have been definitely on the forefront of that. And so how do you think Tulsa became kind of a hub for coffee? And how do you see it influencing the coffee world and the coffee culture in surrounding areas?
I think that's a great question. I think that there have been a lot of individuals in Tulsa that have been very interested in coffee for a long time. And a lot of these individuals have taken what they know about coffee and what they do well in coffee and have ran with it. And I think a lot of people ran in different directions. And in my opinion, that's the greatest thing that could have happened, is that everybody decided to do something a little bit different, or have met a need that not every coffee shop is going to be able to do.
Every roaster seems to have a very specific personality.
Yeah.
And tells their story within each cup very significantly different.
Yeah.
I can picture in my mind Topeka's spirit, Doubleshot spirit, Cirque's spirit. All of you guys have something that really tells your story specifically.
And what would you say Doubleshots is?
I would say that with us, our main goal has always been to provide fresh, delicious coffee to as many people as possible, no matter what.
And do you feel like you've kind of what Austin asked you, like you've influenced, like Doubleshot Brian in general has influenced surrounding, let's just keep it in the area, right?
Yeah.
Like surrounding states, coffee shops in like Fayetteville with Onyx and different things like that. Do you feel like there's an I don't even know, like, is this like the point of influence in a way because of how popular Doubleshot has become?
I mean, I would say so. And I can't imagine doing the work that we've done. I mean, I've been with the company for almost 10 years, and I feel like I put in a lot of sweat equity. And
Yeah.
You're the governor for a reason,
You're one of the first people that I met in the coffee world, like on the ground level of we roast it, we serve it, but also how far out do you guys sell your coffee?
We distribute and sell coffee all over the United States, if not all over the world.
You shipped to me when I was in Denver.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, there's a lot of online customers.
Awesome.
If you go to doubleshotcoffee.com, we will literally
Plug.
ship your coffie within within like 24 hours of your order.
But what was the best part about that? Not to interrupt you, but like I don't know if I ever told you how much it meant to me in like a really weird, sappy way. That on each of my orders, I would get a hand-drawn doodle from Jolly with a note, with some sort of a note, and it was just like, oh, it just like reminded me. It was just like home, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's
I
I can't dap him up
Tulsa
or give him
people
a
for
hug,
you.
but I can look at his drawing, and it was cool. I appreciate that. So thank
I'm
you.
glad it like made an impact because
It did.
literally, like, I mean, that was my job for a while. Like, I've been so fortunate to have so many amazing individuals that want to come and work for the company. Like right now, Nick Millward, he's an incredible guy. He's been taking over all the online stuff that I
See
used
the
to
English bloke.
do. Yes. And he's just been incredible when it comes to taking care of the online stuff and being a great, and like, he reaches out to everybody individually that emails our like company email, and it's just like, hey, this is what's going on with your order. Here's what's happening. Here's what you need. Here's when it's going to get there. Do you need anything else? What do you want me to throw in the box? And he writes handwritten notes just like I did.
That's awesome.
And we've always, like, there was somebody a long time ago when I was in college, I learned from Stratton Taylor, former Oklahoma senator, that handwritten notes go a long way. And mean a lot to people. And I know that it's such a... Like,
in all walks of life, like in any anything.
Oh my God, yeah, exactly. And it's something that I always wanted to do with online orders. It's something that Brian always wanted to reiterate. He always did handwritten notes, even before me and him were doing the online orders together. He always did handwritten notes, and I've always thought that was super important because I think it's a lot different than typing a little thank you or just like putting the packing slip in a box and saying,
absolutely,
here you go, here's your stuff, hope it matches what's on the paper.
Yeah.
And that's always something that I thought was important. Nick, I think, really embodies that because he's taken it and ran with it even more than I could have. And I think customer service is really, at the end of the day, like, there's a quote in the book Setting the Table. It's one of my favorite books when it comes to talking about food service or even just like expectation management with people. And the quote is, oh man, here I go saying this thing.
I know.
You're gonna say a quote.
The spirit of it is
You can
basically,
butcher it. It's okay.
yeah, I was gonna say the spirit of it is basically like food service is like taking care of people, feeding people, making people feel good. It's that easy and that hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
That's so true.
when it comes to, I mean, writing little notes, it probably takes me a while to do 40 to 50 handwritten notes, but I'll be damned if I'm, not going to sit there and like write something really nice and make sure people know. Like,
And I
wanna
know
say
you
something
haven't
nice to
even
you.
asked your first question, but that goes really into my second question.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
And I
I'm
want
not
to,
keeping count or track, so you're good.
but I so literally the question that I had in my mind is kind of the dark side of the bean, and going on that, because I feel like coffee shops have it the worst in customers coming to you. And how does a barista do it with taking care of the customers, and they're coming into your shop in the most cranky part
Usually
of their
they
day?
haven't had their coffee yet.
I mean, I've even come into a coffee
Valid point.
shop cranky as hell. And, all I can do is like, coffee, please, walk out.
Yeah.
And the barista is, especially at Doubleshot, always the happiest person I've seen.
I'm laughing because my mental...
And you would be one of those people.
I don't know
My
about that
mental
with me.
image is I have seen at Doubleshot multiple times Darren from Doc's stumble through that front door, hair a mess, like one sleeve on his jacket, the other out. And I just look at him. I'm like, hey, man, you all right? And he's like, I will be.
Explain.
He just needs his coffee.
Because you guys have a fortitude that most humans don't. Where does that come from?
I would say it comes from an understanding that. So I mean, it kind of goes back to that original mission statement. Like we're trying to do like good, delicious coffee to as many people as possible, no matter what. Sometimes that involves like understanding that the relationship we have with people is giving them something that allows their day to start off on the right point. And it feels so cheesy to say that. I don't mean it in like a cheesy way, but it means it's the reality, We're there because it's not easy to wake up and have this ritual. It's really what it is. It's a ritual. Mm-hmm. Making coffee is a ritual, just like going to the bar and having one beer after work is a ritual.
Right.
And sometimes that ritual gets reversed. So you go to the coffee shop in the morning and then you go home and you have a beer at home instead.
Right. Yeah.
And that's our job. And nobody showed up at the coffee shop expecting a bad attitude from us. Nobody showed up at the coffee shop expecting anything other than like, I really need coffee and I hope it tastes good. And if they're coming to me and they're going to pay me something to make them something that tastes good so they can get through their day and have like a good start to their day, like I'm going to do my job and meet them there. Now, granted, is there a break in that social contract? And does that sometimes need to be addressed? Yeah. I think everybody should be allowed to address that, just like your bartender would at the end of the night if you've had too much to drink.
I think what's impressive, though, is that you have the capacity to do that, right, for your job, 8-ish or more hours a day. But when you leave and then you're back into society, you still have more empathy and kindness to give, like as a person. Because I think, just talking about me, if I had to do that for 8 to 10 hours a day, when I left, I would be a fucking asshole to like everybody I saw the rest of the day because I needed to get that out. Like it was just, but you're a nice dude outside of work. And it's like, how are you not an asshole? Like where does that come from? That ability to just have an overflowing amount of kindness or empathy or whatever words you want to use there. Do you not ever feel like just being an asshole?
Oh, all the time.
Okay, fair. That's what I wanted to know. Are you human or are you a robot?
No,
basically?
man. I mean, it's hard, man. It's really hard. It's hard to know producers personally and like literally have been on their farm and like seen their hard work and like had them like feed you food, that like they made and like be excited that you were there, and then you're trying to sell people coffee and they're like, $20, I can pay $5 a pound down at Research for that. I'm like,
can you just make me a pumpkin spice latte, please?
And it's like, I mean, it just is what it is. Like, I'm like, I don't mind if people want to drink that. It's just like, don't come ask me for it. That's fine. Like, even ask me for it. Just be okay with me telling you I can't do that for you. Right. That's fine too. I don't know, man. It's my life has been dramatically easier because I want to be nice to people. My life is so much better and easier, and
I think there's a lesson to be learned by everybody listening and watching from that statement. Yeah,
like it's. I mean, I just really
life advice.
It's easy to be nice to people. It's a conscious choice to be an asshole.
I think so.
I mean, it really is.
I mean, even then, like, I'm not even sure. Like, I think that being an asshole is like almost like the easiest thing to do. Like, being mean to people is easy. Like, it's so easy to be mean to people. It is a lot harder to be like, man, I just got cut off by this dude, and he's like moving on. I'm gonna flip him off and say, well, what if that dude just found out that his like grandma fell and he's like rushing to the hospital? It's his grandma, and not to be like morbid. You never know what people are going through, and for the most part, I just assume that most people are having a hard day. And
I mean, there's the potential that dude is just a dick, but
there's
also
huge potential for that.
There could be a reason.
I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't just like. I've had so many people come in that are just mean people, and eventually you have to look at these people and you have to say like, hey, we're not on the same page here. I don't know what you think is going on behind the bar. I don't know what you think is going on your side of the bar, but like you can't say those things, and we're still going to serve you. Like,
Yeah.
Right. You can come in, you can ask for tea, you can ask for things that we don't serve, you can ask for all kinds of stuff that we don't have. No one in that shop is going to give a damn shit.
Just don't be mad about our answer.
Yeah, don't be mad about the answer, and certainly don't be rude. And if you're going to be rude and you're going to talk down to people, or you're going to like belittle the people that work there who are just literally trying their best to do their job, like get out of here.
Yeah.
But on the other thing, like I think that there, in some ways, sometimes in the service industry is also a very, and this goes back to my thing. Like I think it's easy to be angry and hard to be nice, and some days that's vice versa. But I think sometimes there's this like thing where people just want to be mad at people that want to come in and buy stuff from them, and maybe you just don't like people, and that's okay, and you should maybe not work in the service industry for an extended period of time because that's not going to be a good job for you.
This is not for
and
you.
You're going to be sad and miserable, and so are the people that you serve, and that's okay. Like it's okay to not want to do that job, but don't make it miserable for the people that you're literally like are paying you money to get a thing, and don't make it miserable for the people that are doing the job. And I don't think that anybody at my place has that. I don't think that anybody that I've like really been around in Tulsa, but I think everybody in their lifetime, whether you work service industry or not, can tell when somebody didn't want to be around you, when you were just like really wanting to enjoy the space.
Right.
But even then, like, again, it goes back to being nice. Like, even if that happens to me out in public, whenever I'm on the other side of the corner as a customer, I'm not going to be a jerk to that person because for all I know, they just found out the worst news of their life. And they're like in the 10-minute period that they have to tell their boss, I have to go home, like because of some tragedy. I never know.
You never know.
So it's so much easier for me to just be like, I was nice and I did what I was
You
supposed
sleep
to
better
do.
at night that way.
Oh yeah.
Before I move us down the line, a totally different direction, will you tell us about the Saison that we're drinking?
Yeah. So, okay.
Which is really good, by the way.
I was going to say.
Well, and for you to say that this is good, I'm opening
Because it's
up a
Belgian.
lot of doors for
I
you.
like Saisons. That's like the one
okay.
Belgian. Okay, let me ask you a beer question.
You're good.
So there's
Yeah.
French Saison and there's Belgian Saison. Is it yeast?
It would be yeast.
Okay. This
So
is the difference?
so this is a Belgian classic Saison. And so we've got a little bit of our base malt and a little bit of rye in this. This is why this beer comes off so peppery. And Saisons are so dry and a style because of a certain style of yeast. It's called diastaticus. So it's an over attenuator. That's why they're so dry. And that's why they're so peppery.
The
When you say
description on this
attenuated
can
and spicy
is like spot on.
Yeah.
Because it's talking about the spices, unforgiving, unapologetic, but then it's dry on the palate. I mean, it's 100% the best description of a beer. Like, it's exactly what it is.
Lisa really knocked it out of the park there.
When you say attenuated, what do you mean?
So attenuated.
Ooh, Charlie going deep voice.
Attenuation is the amount of sugar being eaten by the yeast. So usually the yeast will attenuate or consume around 90% of the sugar that is available to it within the liquid that we call beer. So we're going to have, at the end of the day, any style of beer is going to have in between 1 to 4% sugar content left within it that the yeast is just not going to eat because it's either tired or it just decided not to, or
it got lazy.
Yeah, it got lazy, got fat and sassy.
Fat and happy.
Yeah, and so once it gets to the point of its happiness, of it's gotten to the end of the plate where it wants to eat, it'll fall out of suspension and stop fermenting. The difference between Belgian or Saison yeast strains and regular yeast strains is it's in a completely different branch of yeast strain, and it's going to eat. So this attenuated 100% of the sugar.
So that's why there's no sweet. It's that dry
There's
finish.
nothing sweet about this beer.
Gotcha.
It is completely dry. There is actually -% of sugar in this.
Interesting.
It actually started eating the protein content within this beer.
So in the Belgian world, is this the closest to like there's single, double, triple, all that? Is Saison close to a single, or is there so much more sugar in the single that it's not even in the ballpark?
Great question. So this isn't necessarily a Trappist style beer. This is a farmer style beer.
Okay.
Saison means seasonal, and they would be
Saison.
feeding this or giving this to the harvesters.
The people picking the coffee cherries.
The people picking the coffee cherries.
Look how our worlds just meld together.
And let me blow your minds. So going on your point of how many years it takes for a coffee bean tree to produce coffee, you said 5 years. Mm-hmm. So to produce a new hop strain, do you guys have any clue of how long that takes?
15.
It takes 15.
Did I nail it?
In between 13 and 15 years.
Come on. Like saying if you crossed like I don't know, if you did like a cross between like Mosaic and Citra, just to name two like popular ones that like I know of just from beer stuff. Like it would take 15 years for that cross to isolate to something that's producible and different.
Yep. So
all the experimental hops that are just like, letters and numbers.
Letters and numbers. They're in the 12-year.
Okay. So they're earlier on in the window.
They're deciding
the letters and numbers.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
They're deciding in that like 10th to 12th year when they have just letters and numbers. They're deciding whether or not it's able to go into commercial production.
Yeah.
So when you use that, you really have no idea the outcome.
No. I mean, like when experimental batch comes out and it just has, HB 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever it may be, you might only be able to use it that year. And then you tell the hop producer, this is super cool. And then enough breweries and enough people around in
there has
the
to
world
be enough interest for them to
yes, produce this commercially, give it a name, let's go for it. And then it'll take another year or two after that to actually get it to a commercial level to where breweries can actually use it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Could I grill you about a recent hop strain that's like been that? Is there
go for it?
I just mean like what is something that maybe
Sabro. I think Sabro's relatively.
I feel like the only thing I know would be like Vic's Secret or something, or even that might not even be as new as I think it is.
Yeah, I just feel like when I was working at Cerebral, so this was 3 years ago now. We did an IPA that had Sabro in it, and the coconut beach nose on that thing, like suntan lotion, basically. Mm-hmm. And it was the first beer I had seen with Sabro. Whether or not it was, but it was the first one I had come across. So I feel like that's relatively new.
It is relatively new.
Yeah.
The hops that you would be most familiar with.
Citra's brand new.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Centennial, right?
I mean, in the relativity of the world, sure.
Sure, right? Yeah.
I mean, like the hops that would be within the 20-year range. They've been in commercial for at least 5 years. Would be Galaxy, Mosaic.
Okay.
And hops that are older that you wouldn't necessarily know as older would be like Simcoe, Citra. Those have been around for about 30 years now. And newer hop strains like Hallertau Blanc, those have been around for about 17 years. But like in commercial usage for about 4. And so there's just a lot of hops that get into that world and then they die off because they don't get popular, or they somehow pick up a disease and then die off. They're very receptive to diseases, which is a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
And to get it to that, and that actually, I think it's year 6 to 8 is its testing of its ability to survive kind of diseases and this, that, and the other. And then it'll go on.
Do they breed hops for disease resistance with an idea of compensation for flavor?
100%.
Because I imagine that there's probably like a ground between the two where like disease resistance doesn't taste as good as
you would think
lupulin amount or whatever. That might be the wrong word.
I mean the best disease resistant hops are the ones that are surviving the best.
Yeah.
And mostly going to be producing the best flavors. We doing all right?
Oh, don't mind me. I'm just so part of what you don't know about Katie's podcast is about 3/4 of the way through our audio. So we record the video separately from the audio. The audio's on like a recorder. The cameras record on their own media. So that's why we clap to like sync it all up. Well, the audio recorder, something happened with the battery that was plugged into it. It became dislodged and it just
basically
died.
turned off.
And so like I just happened to like lean back and look, and there was nothing. It was off. And I was like, fuck. And so I let her finish her thought, which was brilliant. And I was like, now's a good time to stop, because we didn't get any of that.
That thought was only for us.
Yeah. And so I brought in a new audio mixer today, but I keep like kind of looking over there just to make sure that like the bar's moving when I talk and you talk, and they're still recording and all that. All right, so let me take us.
You want to finish that thought? I'm going to finish my thought on the Saison, and then we can move on. But so that's why this beer is so dry, talking about the attenuation of the yeast. It's a really cool beer. This is the best beer style for food. 100%.
Because it's so dry.
It's so dry. It's very highly, normally Saisons are really highly carbonated. So if you're going to eat duck, steak, burgers, pizza, something really fatty and oily, this is the beer style to do it.
I love that.
I love that too.
All right, so you're obviously passionate about what you do, right? I mean,
let's say so.
You talked for, I don't even know how many minutes when we started, just about coffee
without even a question.
Yeah, like it was brilliant, just like all this stuff. So
I think we could have just listened to him for an hour.
Yeah. I'm curious,
without interjection.
Do you feel like coffee found you, or you found coffee?
Oh, coffee found me indefinitely.
So you weren't, when you started working at Doubleshot, it was a job, it wasn't a passion?
Oh, well, okay. That's a great question. I'd love to give you like some history for me. When I was first introduced to coffee, I was working at a Jamba Juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was blending
on.
smoothies. And I was going to college at Rogers State University in Claremore.
Welcome to the early 2000s.
Go Hillcats.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah, go Hillcats. Which I was driving to Owasso, to work every other day, or whatever it was, like from my like freshman to sophomore like college job, because I don't know why I didn't want to work in town. I just wanted to work at a smoothie shop.
Yeah.
And it felt nice to go somewhere else to go to work. But driving 25, 30 minutes to work kind of sucked. I decided it sucked so much that I decided to do it for a few more years after I got a job in Claremore. So after I was working at Jamba Juice one day, and this guy came in, and when we were working there, one of the things you had to do is you had to like ask for his names like before you got their smoothie. Call him by name.
Right.
Customer service, everybody.
You don't write it on the cup like Starbucks.
No,
but you
of course not. I'm a Jamba Juice. Jamba Juice would never write it on the cup. I'm going to get a cease and desist for saying Jamba Juice on this podcast so much. And he came in, and his name was Andrew. And the second time he came in, I remembered him as Andrew, which is my first name. For those of you who don't know that, I'm not just Jolly. I'm Andrew Jolly.
Right. Which, time out, where did Jolly come from?
It's my middle name.
Okay.
It's my dad's first name.
Gotcha.
He's Jolly Andrew.
Robinson's your last name.
Robinson's my last name, yeah. He's Jolly Andrew. I'm Andrew Jolly. That's a family name.
Fair enough. Continue on with your story.
So he came in, I remember, and he was like, wow, that's really nice of you to remember my name. Like, wow, he's made some joke about customer service. And he's like, where are you from? Like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a student at RSU. He's like, why are you driving up here? Like, my dad owns a coffee shop in Claremore. Do you just want to come work there? And I said, yes. So I got a job at that coffee shop, even though I didn't like coffee, but I really liked the idea of coffee shop culture. Like people that came to sit and do work while they drink something that they enjoyed. Customer service, like being a high priority, because I liked people at the time a lot, and I still like people, but some, I'm older now. I'm older now. I like certain people, Fair. I like nice people. I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
And I was really into it, and I worked there for a while, and commuted to Tulsa to do my college homework at Doubleshot. And
back when it was 18th in Boston.
Back when we were at 18th in Boston, and I was there one day.
That's a long drive from Claremore.
Yeah, it's about 40 minutes.
Wow.
And one day somebody asked me, and they were like, "You drive up here every day? Like, do you just want to work here?"
You really didn't like Claremore, did you?
I liked Claremore. Don't get me wrong.
You worked in Owasso and drove to Tulsa to study.
Okay. Well, I I didn't like to stay in my dorm. I didn't just want to be like sitting in my dorm.
I'm not judging you for it. I'm just calling out the obvious. That's all.
There just wasn't a lot to do there.
That
There wasn't a
true.
lot to do.
That is true.
And I think the city's grown a lot, and they've compensated for a college life that was. But as a college student, I'm going to go to Tulsa. And I had a lot of other things I wanted to do in Tulsa. There was so much going on. Like Valkyrie, I think was not just opening, but like Valkyrie was a thing,
right?
And was in its early days. And I didn't know anything about all that stuff. I grew up in a very small town, very
Football star.
I don't know about that. More like I was there to make other people look good as a lineman. I did my job, and other people got to look really cool.
Fair.
But there wasn't you drank whiskey in Nowata. It's like a small town drinking whiskey. It's just like you're partying, you're having a good time. But drinking whiskey or gin in Tulsa was a totally different experience. I remember one of the first times. One of the handfuls of times I went to Valkyrie for the first time, I went with Zach Coker, and Aaron Post made him and I aviations, and I'd never had something like that. I didn't know gin could taste cool and not just be like this incredibly dry, potpourri thing that I was shooting. I just had I didn't know anything as a college kid,
Right.
But people in Tulsa, like I said, customer service is just outrageous here, and no matter who you are, you can probably have a really great experience because people are going to give you the chance. And Aaron sat down and was willing to take his time with Zach and I. We were young idiots. I mean that in the nicest way possible, but I'm sure that everybody that's older now understands you didn't know anything. You thought you knew the world, but you don't know anything. And he sat down and he just made us something like classic cocktails and was very entertaining, very educating. And I would say even to this point in my career, that moment had an impact on my understanding of customer service and just being kind to people, no matter where they are and their understanding of the product you serve. Everybody deserves an opportunity to learn about it. And if you can't meet them at that level and make your language digestible to them, there's almost no point in doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise all you're doing is just making yourself look cool. And that's dumb. That's the dumbest thing you can do in the service industry is make yourself look cool. I hate that.
That's so true.
I hate that more than anything in the world.
No one behind a bar is really that cool.
No, never. No, no one has.
We're just goons that know how to put things together.
I would say that's the best. That is how I feel every day. I'm I like this stuff, and I just want to make sure it tastes good when you put it to your mouth. Other than that, I don't know anything.
Right.
Because otherwise, it's a learning experience for us all too, Sit there and say I'm the master of all this stuff. Cool, you've decided that you don't have anything to learn and you're never going to get better at your job. And
I don't want to hear that.
Dumb.
Yeah. So funny story. You hear how I'm sniffing?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there's something in a Saison that will trip my allergies.
No way.
And it's not every Saison, and it's not every time. And so right now, I'm fighting a sneeze because if I sneeze, I'm going to keep sneezing for the rest of the podcast.
We'll have to go on break.
We would, yeah. If I started
will you guys
sneezing.
do one of those cool B-roll edits where it's you sneezing on a beat kind of thing? That'd be really cool.
I'm going to grab my water over here.
It would have to be the yeast.
What would it be? Because it's not every
yeast?
Saison, not every time. I've had your Saison before,
Yeah.
and it didn't do this. But something about today, I'm going to grab my water. But what would it be?
Maybe the rye?
I don't know, but I drink rye whiskey.
Yeah, but that's distilled. So most of the allergens would be completely removed.
Fair.
That's why whiskey is technically gluten-free but it still comes from gluten. And that it's because that it's distilled and you're only drinking the alcohol that's coming from that content.
Yeah.
Did you save with a number 2 or a number 1 when you trimmed your mustache earlier this morning? It could be it.
Could be it. You're right. It's that tickle in the nose. That's what it comes from. So I'll go ahead and ask my second question.
Yeah.
But just for, what do we want to do? You brought a brown bag, sir.
I did.
So we need a palate. No, let's save that.
Whoa.
Do you want to do this one next?
Yeah.
Because I want to end with this. And I think we need a palate cleanser before that, which I think is in the brown bag.
I think the palate cleanser is in the brown bag.
Yes.
And I
there's a
hope that
palate
there's
cleanser.
a story for that.
Oh, there's a story.
I'm going to do this. Just so I don't start sneezing.
Yeah. So this is a really fun beer for us. We just had a really random fermenter open up, and our brewers all got really excited and giddy, and we threw a base pale ale into the fermenter. So we didn't dry hop it. We barely even hopped it. And this is one of 5 pale ales that we're making from that base liquid.
Love it.
So, and it goes back to your question about what hops are, coming out of that experimental phase. This is Racal, which is an Australian hop. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I am an expert in hops, because if you know our brewery, we are a Belgian-German forward brewery, and we don't necessarily live in the pale ale and IPA world, but it is really fun to experiment sometimes and go down a path of creativity. So this is now available. Sorry.
COVID time still. We don't want to be drinking after each other.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
This is available, and we released it this week in the tap room. So it's called Shades of Pale, Volume 1. Dry hopped with Racal. I think it's 1.25 pounds per barrel.
I thought you were going to say 1.25%.
1.25%.
I think it's actually something around 6%. I can't remember. 6.2.
So you had said a moment ago, you mentioned as you guys identify mostly as a Belgian German brewery. I can, as a coffee company, sometimes there's a lot of things that we offer and a lot of things we don't offer. And sometimes people question what we don't offer. Do you ever run into issues where you've got customers that are like, well, how come you guys don't have like this kind of IPA on? Or is that something that ever happens to you guys? Like
100%.
And like, how do you like deal with that?
Sometimes we do, and sometimes we can't. Before we had a chance to like educate Tulsa about what we were really passionate about, we would have people come in because they were really used to prairie or whatever, and they thought, new brewery means IPAs and really, distinct beers. And everyone was used to Marshall's Brewing Company, and they weren't necessarily walking in doing this. We would have people walk in and be like, all right, what kind of IPAs do you have available? And we were like,
we got the one.
We have one.
We got Hunt Man.
And at one point in time, we didn't even have that. And
was it just out of like a
no,
supply chain shortage? Because we dealt with a lot with stuff. So I don't know if you guys have
trust
dealt with
me,
that either.
we could have a long conversation about that, but
we don't have to, because I'm sure that everybody listening has probably been there too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form.
No, that was just not our passion. So they just walked out. They wouldn't try any other beer. They wouldn't. It was just like, oh, you don't have an IPA on? You don't have a hazy IPA? They'd walk straight out.
They wanted to chew their beer.
No. And we would stand there like, we have a. Never mind.
So
Goodbye.
like what do you do like in that? Aside from, what do you do like in that scenario? Or do you just kind of like?
I think you just have to be really nice. Like what you were saying is niceties win over everything else. You can't necessarily fall into your anger and or frustration in that scenario, and really just ask questions moving forward of like, hey, we don't have IPAs, or we're not necessarily known for IPAs. Now we have pale ales and IPAs and this, that, and the other. But in that scenario, you try to find, a middle ground. You're like, well, what other kind of beers do you like to try? Do you like to try stouts? Do you like to do, drink this or blah, blah, blah? And you find something that, that has a comparable answer to it. And then they'll try something, and then you see the light up in their eyes, and they're like, oh, wow, this is actually a really cool beer. And you're like, yeah. something other than IPAs can be cool.
Yeah.
But we dove into the pale, so
We did. Yeah.
Well,
It's delicious.
I was gonna say, I think it's a great idea to like have a blank canvas and then decide like, okay, cool, we'll change one variable of the canvas.
yeah. So okay, the brewers are really excited to hear what you guys think about this beer and what you think is going on, because it came out a lot different than what we were expecting. Both not proud of it and proud of it. Because we're just experimenting. This is something that we have no history with Raquel. This is just we used it.
I'm trying so hard not to sniff into the microphone too. Like I'm dying over here.
Do we need to go on breaks?
No. Like what I might do is when you ask your last question, I might blow my nose, and then come back or I might just power through it. We'll just see. We'll just see what happens.
Whatever's clever. I can be here for whatever you need.
Right. No, but we're not going to stop it. You can keep going on. I trust you to ask a question and have conversation. But so about this. So I told you I was with Josh Royal and Hayden yesterday, and we were at Solera. We walked over to try this, and there was something in it. But everybody's palate's different, right?
Of course.
So Josh almost got a buttered popcorn taste.
Okay, interesting.
But we said before that meant that like there was something wrong with it normally if it tasted like that. I never got that flavor, but that was just his palate. For me, there's like a lot of greenness to it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you could taste the color, there's like you were talking about the green coffee, cherries, and that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of young fruit coming forward to me. Like I get a lot of that.
That's perfect. There is, I'm not going to disagree with his palate and say that there is buttered popcorn would be diacetyl.
Right.
I don't think that there's any diacetyl
because I don't get any of that.
This is an ale, which is really hard to get diacetyl in.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say that he doesn't.
Right. Everybody's palate's different. Yeah.
So
what do you get?
I'm going to wait.
Okay, so you're going to wait. Jolly,
for
you're
him.
up.
Because I have my own answers and I don't want to.
I'll just like throw out some things I get. Because I usually am I'm like kind of all over the place when it comes to tasting stuff.
Right.
But if I was like just giving, and I'd hate to like dwell on it longer than I need to, because if I do, I'm going to give you I feel like I'm not going to give honest answers. So I'm going to start like thinking too much about it. But like my first my inclinations, I almost get like a pina colada, like aroma. Like I get a little bit of like I don't want to say like artificial coconut, not in a bad way.
It's like Hawaiian tropic.
And then
you're not going to hurt my feelings because
no.
This is completely experimental. This is super fun.
I just don't know if anybody viewing would understand like artificial coconut and understand like that's not a detrimental comment.
Right.
That's okay.
Because sometimes we'll say stuff in coffee too where people are like, well, it tastes like this, and like it can mean like, oh, that's like fresh tobacco, and people are like, you mean
or burnt
smoked?
chocolate? It's like
no, not
tastes
like,
burnt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now if somebody came in and they were like, this is like a green bean or tomatoes, I'd be like, oh no. But
I get fresh tobacco in the Felix.
Yeah,
almost every single time I drink it.
Yeah, but for like I get this I get like almost like I said, like a little bit of like some artificial coconut, not in a not in a bad way, like in a good way, and then I get a little bit of like creamy pineapple smell, like if you were doing like a pineapple whip. I got a little bit of that like where it's like a more subtle smell because again the pineapple's cold, so like your olfactory bulb doesn't pick up on that like tropical aroma as much as like kind of like you pick up the creamy notes with a hint of pineapple, which that's what I get from a pineapple whip. I don't know about all you.
Nice.
That's kind of like the aroma I get from the hops, and then like the wrap up, I get a little bit of that like sticky smell, if that makes sense. Like
Sure.
a little bit of like some sticky pine, citrus, like stuff that like when I drink it, it clings to the back of my palate a little bit more than the other things. I would
Those are
say.
some good descriptions.
I do it for
I must say. Yeah.
So for me, and those are all wonderful. I personally, so your greenness, I get like plantains. I get a little bit of chocolate and vanilla out of this. And I also get wild onions.
That's an interesting one.
No, I can totally pick up what he's
I
talking
can
about.
pick it up.
I can
though.
totally pick up what you mean.
I keep
then-
sniffing
and
as if
then-
I can use my nose right now.
Sure,
It's like,
sure.
well, there's nothing
There have been
there.
a few productions throughout Tulsa that I think have had that note that is like really unique and different.
And
Then
I
I think
have
most-
never used Raquel, and this is a little bit older hop. Like it sat in our walk-in for a little bit, so it does have a little bit of oxidation flavor to it. Not the hop, not the beer, but and then after all of that, I just get a little bit of cheesiness to it.
Yeah, I could see that.
That is if you ever smell cheesiness in a beer that is hop forward, that means that the hop was aged and got a little bit oxidized.
I just had an idea. Bourbon barrel aged hops.
That'd be pretty cool.
Could it work?
It could work for sure. 100%.
So quick question, and this does deviate a little bit from like German style stuff, but
But we don't actually get interviewed very often.
I
so
know.
This is cool.
I was going to say, and please correct me if my understanding is wrong, because I'm a hobbyist at best that has given up the hobby like
That's fine.
years ago. But Goose, blended lambic, traditionally, and lambic itself, if I'm not mistaken, uses aged hops as its.
It does. Yep.
Would you say that the level of what you've talked about in this beer matches what you would expect from those hops in those beers? Or do you think that there's a distinct difference when it comes to aged hops or hops that maybe are, even as like a commercial brewer that produces a lot of hopped beers that are outside of that realm? Because I know those beers take time, like longer time than probably what you would
100%.
expect from a production IPA, pale ale, or anything that requires some aggressive dry hopping or excessive hopping. Would you say that is different, or would you say that these two
100%.
things are symbiotic in some way?
There's almost no similarities of usage, but that's a really cool question because there is usage of purposefully aged hops within blended, sours and this, that, and the other, and it's because they're not dry hopping it. They're using it within the boiling process, and it's meant to. The reason that they're using aged hops, to my understanding, I haven't done this personally or done much research, so I will have to plead the fifth if I get this wrong.
Which is such a cool thing, like as a professional to say,
Right.
like in my opinion. Like I think that's just like, I don't know. I really admire like I don't do this. Here's what I know.
Yeah,
Like, I think that's really cool.
Well, it's like if a coffee brewer is really, really good at making cappuccinos, and that's what they're doing, and or like whatever on a coffee maker, but never does pour overs.
Sure. Not every roastery is a cafe, and not every cafe is a roastery.
Exactly. So,
Well put.
so for me, I don't do blended beers. I don't do wild aged beers and this, that, and the other. But I am very fascinated with them. So they would use them on the hot side and also use them primarily for the counterbalance of sweetness within that beer. So they're not and the reason that they're using the aged hops specifically is so that not a lot of hop flavor actually comes out in the beer. But you're still getting that counterbalance of sweetness while also bringing in a little bit of, so the reason that they would use that cheesiness is so that you're counterbalancing also the acidification of the sour.
Good adverb.
The acidification. The acidification of
think that's
the
an adverb.
souring process within that beer so that you have a little bit of, kind of a fake sweetness from the hop on down the road, and so that the beer is not necessarily entirely overpowering sour.
Can I tell you this tastes totally different? And it could be that I can't breathe out of my nose. But
that could
It
have a
tastes
thing.
totally different than it did in the tap room yesterday.
Well, yeah, and that goes to, you know, having, okay, so our brewery, the tap room has, you know, let's say we had a scented candle.
Right.
That's going to affect your experience within your oral factory. And you might think, oh, wow, this has some coconut with a blah, blah, blah. And that's really cool. And this is really good. And then you could have it at a restaurant and you're like, oh, well, this isn't the same beer. And then the customer all of a sudden is really angry that the brewery didn't make the same exact beer. And but also at the same time, the restaurant that they're having it at has pine needles hanging above them, and they're smelling those alongside. So So in this sterile room, you don't.
What are you trying to say about my room?
No.
I'm kidding.
This clean and very put together room.
I see a wreath.
Doesn't have any candles or any people in it, and so
that's fair.
You're not going to have anything.
I like that.
As a brewer, like whenever you guys are selling stuff to other restaurants, other places that might be featuring your beer, do you guys have standards where you're like, hey, if you're going to do my beer, don't do X, Y, or Z, or don't do this, please, like so that it tastes the way that I want it to taste.
I wish. Here's what I'm going to do. You answer, and then ask your last question. I have to go blow my nose.
Yeah.
Or else I'm gonna,
go for it.
Start sneezing.
Go for it.
Continue. I'll be right back.
Like what happens when you're, or have you ever been at a restaurant? And you don't have to name a restaurant by any means.
Yeah, no.
But have you ever been in a scenario where you've like had your beer and been like, damn, this tastes nothing like what I expected it to taste like?
I definitely have. And
like, what is it like for you as the producer?
Yeah, it's and usually it's because a restaurant doesn't necessarily clean their lines correctly. And if it's a restaurant that I really care about, I will raise the concern and I will tell the manager.
You'll raise
or the
like
owner.
What's the restaurant where where you raise the flags?
Oh, raise the flag.
You get more stuff.
That was some sort of. Oh gosh, what restaurant was that? It was a Mexican restaurant that started in Denver. Anyways,
I can't believe I can't remember it. It's like something I went to as a kid. One was
I have fond memories.
I want to call it
restaurant.
Calaveras, but Calaveras in Canada here, and that's not the same thing by any means at all. But
anyways,
you'd raise the flag and you let them know, hey, we need to make some. I need some sopapillas for my beer.
Yeah, exactly. And it, this restaurant's closed now, so I can say it by name. The Blue Rose.
Oh, sure.
And it had nothing to do with their ability to manage and this, that, and the other, but they put our Saison on directly after like some blueberry prairie beer.
Something would be like lacto or something on the line.
Yeah, and our Saison tasted like blueberries, which is completely not what we were, wanting.
Right.
So that happens. And am I mad at the restaurant or this, that, and the other? Absolutely not, because I know that they have 22 taps that they're trying to manage, and they're also trying to order cabbage and meat and burgers and all sorts of stuff, and trying to manage people at the same time. If I get the opportunity to coach them on cleaning the line, that's great. But also at the same time, it is frustrating, because normally the customer is like, oh, well, this beer tastes like shit. And then they're like, oh, well, Cabin Boys makes really shitty beer. And it's like, well, actually, the line was just not clean.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the restaurant's fault.
Sure.
Well, I mean, it is, but like, they might not have known to clean it because they had it cleaned a week ago, but they blew a keg that just had a blueberry beer in it. And then they put ours on. And they were like, well, it was cleaned a week ago.
Cleaning
Whatever.
lines is a bitch too.
Oh, it is, and it's time consuming, and you have to do it while the bar is closed, and that's usually
or
overnight.
like during low hours, and it's like, and usually during those time frames with certain places, like not everybody that you need to talk to in that scenario is probably there.
So no, we don't. To go back to your question, no, we don't have any restrictions. We're not big enough for that. Usually if a restaurant picks up our tap handle, I'm just thankful that they did that.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we want to grow and we want to get our beer out there. But it is sad or disappointing when you have your beer at a restaurant and it doesn't taste right.
Yeah.
So
Coaching is a difficult thing. And,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily always a fun thing to have to do, I think, to provide, because it's difficult because I feel like part of those things are half consultation and half literally just doing, like, selling them the thing you already sell. And it's not always easy to consult the people that just want a thing, but to get them to get the same result that they're hoping to have, there is a certain way to do certain things that you have to follow.
Sure.
And or you want to follow it as close as you can. And I think that really it makes a huge difference. And I think you guys have probably been around and like long enough, like more than probably you guys have been around long enough. Like I know you guys understand like where that can really make a difference when it comes to food or even anything. You know, taking the extra. Sometimes I like to just like equivocate it to like it takes an extra 10-15 minutes.
right.
And it could be an extra 15 minutes that you typed out the correct communication and double checked your communication. It takes the extra 15 minutes to make sure that, like you said, the sound over there is good and perfect and right. Or it takes the extra 15 minutes to make sure that, like, well, it takes the extra 50 minutes to clean the line.
Yeah.
Right.
I should say, not 15, to make sure the beer is going to taste right. But I mean, not every restaurant has that priviness, and not every brewery has that priviness to send a dude out there to just literally spend an hour cleaning your line, your dedicated line. Like that's not easy for every brewery to have to do.
I understand for a restaurant, if you ever go to a brewery and their line is unclean, that's an issue because
that is your job. Right?
That is your job. That is the one spot that you have the control. So if, we clean our lines once a week, every single week. And if we change out a beer, we clean the line, even if it's outside of the cleaning. So if you ever go to a brewery and you notice that their lines are not clean, boy howdy, get out of there.
Boy howdy.
Get out of there and go to the next brewery because you can tell that they don't care.
How big a boy are you?
Yeah, all right.
Or tell them if it's your favorite brewery.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
So I got one for you.
All right.
The biggest misconception or misunderstanding about Brian Franklin is
he's a mean person. I mean, no joke. Like,
he's not.
No, not at all.
He is an eccentric. He is his own person. There is no other Brian Franklin. He was a mold one of one, right?
I think Brian's an awesome dude, and I honestly wouldn't have a lot of the things that I have going on for me if it wasn't for Brian and I having the kind of relationship that we have.
And I say that with all due respect. Like, he is just such a unique, like, ultra marathon guy. Just has his passions and has his beliefs, and doesn't care if you don't agree or believe the same thing. It's life, right?
I think there's a lot about Brian, and I've kind of taken this on to myself, but there's a lot of things that he does and a lot of things that I do, a lot of things a lot of people do that work for that company, that we don't really talk about because there's no reason to talk about it, because the only realm that it could enter would be basically just trying to make everybody look better. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes to certain things that you do as a business, as a person, especially in today's time and age where everything is in public view, and even like, I would be lying to you if I told you that like part of me, like a tiny percent of me, like wanted to keep my engagement secret, because that's just mine. I wanted to keep it to myself, but also I'm so stinking pumped. Like so much awesome help, and also like I've been keeping it a secret for months. But like there's just so much stuff that I think happens there at that company, and I have been there for like a decade, and there's a lot of stuff that happens that we just don't really talk about.
So pull the curtain back a little bit. Let me re-ask that question.
Sure.
What's something about Brian Franklin that would surprise people that go to Doubleshot often? So they know who he is, they've interacted with him, but they don't know him to the extent you do. They don't see him after hours. They don't, like, whatever that might be. So give me one thing that would surprise the people that know Brian even to an extent, like, about him.
Brian is the biggest animal lover I've ever known.
See, I didn't know that. Okay.
I didn't know that either.
He loves animals. He loves dogs, loves cats, loves horses. Like, oh my God.
Is he a cat dude?
Is that
He's
why?
a cat dude.
Is that why
wow.
Doubleshot's now in a barn?
Ooh, well played.
I mean,
that.
maybe like subconsciously, yeah. But I mean, that guy loves animals like to the end of the earth. And I think like even to the point of like not just like loving like animals as they are living, but like loves animals in their like history.
Yeah.
And even like with some
cool.
of the stuff that we're doing now, like Brian touches a lot about like animals that are indigenous to Oklahoma.
Right.
And a lot of our branding and a lot of stuff that we're doing right now like touches on like what's going on with the Wichita Mountains. We're doing some projects that give money back to Friends of the Wichita, which
That's cool.
which benefit the nature reserve down there. And
Am I right that
stuff.
his Native Designs logo has a buffalo on it? Am I making that up?
One
Or the
of-
buffalo?
one of the
You guys
designs.
have buffalo coins.
We
and stuff
have
like
we
that.
have a buffalo design, and then another company that he runs called Native Design like talks about like has some references to stuff like that. But I would be lying if I told you that like, oh yeah, no, that's definitely the
Yeah,
thing.
I can't remember.
But he's got so many irons on the fire, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy working with him so much is that sometimes like we can go sit down together as a team, and I'm not going to sit down and talk to Brian about just coffee stuff that day. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about product design. We're going to talk about branding, and like that's what my background is in is really in small business marketing and branding. Is my entire history, like my education and stuff, and my history is in.
I have something to talk to you about today. We're going to do it off camera.
That
But
sounds cool.
I told Austin about the idea, and I think it's something that. Well, I don't want to say too much, like as we're sitting here, if we're not going to talk about it here. But just stay tuned because I think it's something that's going to revolutionize a lot of different things. But I think you two would both be
Yeah, I'm down.
Good
To,
people
I'm down to
to
jam
get
about
in.
everything.
Before you ask your last question,
What's in the brown bag?
what are we doing here?
Well,
We need a palate cleanser.
Oh, okay,
We're gonna do a
okay.
little Busch.
Katie Godoy would be
second
proud.
round.
Yep.
Second round.
Second
brown
round Busch
bag
in a
for
brown
crying out
bag.
Quick
I mean, shoot, guys. Like,
Katie
I grew up
Godoy.
in Nowata, Oklahoma.
There you go.
You didn't
and-
bring it in a brown bag.
I didn't drink. I really didn't drink until I moved out of Nowata. But this is what my dad always drank while I was growing up. We'd come in from hunting deer, coming in from fishing, or we'd be on the boat. My dad was drinking Busch. My dad's friends, we were drinking Busch.
Fill it up.
And I mean, he is the my dad is like really where I learned to drink beer from. Oh wow, it's like a Saison head. That's great.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Hey.
That's got like
right.
some SL48 and some Brett Trois in it.
Not only did you bring Busch, you brought the big one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I grew up in Nowata. Like we didn't have IPAs, Saisons. I'm fortunate enough now that my cousin-in-law Steven Pippin, he runs Dollhouse Brewing. So
wow.
like I've got family that are in it now. But even before that, I got super excited about beer. Like just as soon as like I remember when Prairie Standard was coming out with like the little brass caps.
Yep.
Like in 4 packs. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think, I mean, somebody's going to correct me and maybe correct the podcast. Maybe you guys can edit this out, but like, pretty sure it was still
Oh, no, it's
packaged with
staying in
Brett
here,
at
even
the
if you're
time.
wrong. Yeah.
Like you could it had Britannia Ices packaged in the 4-pack at the time,
Yeah.
but I might be wrong about that.
Are you talking about Prairie Standard?
OG,
Yeah.
original, like the first release of Prairie Standard, I think had
I would-
Brett packaged in it, like house Brett.
I would say that a lot of the variants thereafter did as
Yeah.
well. Now, Chase might listen in and say, no, it didn't.
No, please, but Chase, correct me if I'm wrong. I will happily admit that I'm incorrect, but I drank a lot of that
beer
stuff.
was and is great still.
I
to this
spent way
day.
too much money on Prairie beer as a young college student. I don't know. I should have just been drinking Busch Light, but as like my dad did. But anyways, so I like brought all this stuff home, like was bringing home ridiculous, like I had no idea. So I was bringing home like what was that Bridgepoint or what was it? It was like Hop Czar or something.
Oh,
way
from,
back in the
from
day.
Avery?
That's from-
Bridgeport.
Bridgeport.
Like way back in the day. And they like had like Ebenezer, all these different weird beers.
Hop Czar. Was that not Avery?
That's New Belgium.
New Belgium.
Are you guys sure? I feel like Hop Czar was Bridgeport.
Hop Czar was New Belgium's. Maybe it was Avery.
Because I think they had the whole Czar series where it was like,
Well,
Yeah.
so they had the Kaiser,
Right.
and then they
They
had the
had
Maharaja,
that's-
and then
right.
they had there was one more. There's
Yeah.
one more. They had the Kaiser, the Maharaja,
Yeah.
and then they had one more, and I can't remember the name of it.
I know, I
maybe,
can't either.
Maybe it was Czar.
They're right down from the road.
But I
from
swear
each
to
other,
God,
so
Bridgeport.
it's all the same.
I swear to God, Bridgeport had something called
You
Hot
might be
Czar.
right. You might be right.
Either way, I would go to this little, like, crummy little beer store in Claremore, and I would just buy whatever weird thing that I had no idea what it was. And so I remember my first Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Awesome, loved it. Had no idea that beers could be.
Does
that cool.
anyone forget their first Sierra Nevada Pale Ale?
OG
I think
beer.
people do.
fucking
I think
love
they
that
do.
beer.
I mean, it's just like one of those things, you know. I remember my first Coupe DNR. Like that was a weird experience. I remember when
I don't remember my first Coupe DNR, but I remember my first Coupe F5.
I was gonna say, you remember your first Coupe DNR hangover?
No, but I remember my first Coupe F5 hangover.
Yeah, dude, that hits hard. It
hits
hits like an
real
F5.
hard.
It
Oh
fucking
man,
hits.
dude! I had like no idea. Well, it just came in that big old bottle. You just got in a big bottle.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to think about that kind of stuff, especially like as like again like in my early 20s. Like, I just
you
wanted
could
it to be
afford
cool
it
because I
in
worked.
20s?
Trust me, I did not. I was an idiot. I was an idiot, and I have a lot of college debt.
I have a lot of college debt. You guys, by the way, have seen the full cycle of my allergies.
You have struggled throughout the entire day.
Just when we open this.
Yep, and I'm very
Like you
sorry.
only had.
No.
Oh, it was crazy because you only had like a mustache when we first started. Like made your
Right.
whole beard grow out.
Like it's all here. No, but like if I wouldn't have blown my nose, it would have been an issue. But now I can breathe again. I'm good.
Now you're good.
But like, yeah, that welcome to my life, y'all. Right? Like this is it. Last question. What do you got?
Right on. Okay, so going off of kind of my last question, and I'm really curious. So I feel like coffee has coffee kingdoms.
Sure.
So what is it like in the backstory of the coffee war, or let's call it the bean wars, that people actually don't see? Because I have friends in every single coffee shop, and it seems like everyone has this underlining, like, we love them, but we hate them vibe. And I'm sorry if that's wrong, but it's there. But also at the same time, Tulsa has such an inviting community that it is never seen. So how is it for Doubleshot, and what would you like to see within the Tulsa community for coffee in the future, and maybe kind of break those walls down, or moving forward, and what would be your perfect scenario within the coffee
You're doing
scene?
that whole 5 question and a question thing.
I know,
again.
but
this is good. This is good.
it all has one subject.
It does.
It all has one subject.
They're good questions. They're good questions.
I think that if anybody in the coffee industry has anything that they would want to challenge me on, or is anything they'd want to say to me about what we do, I would invite them to please come meet me and talk to me about it. I would love to find out where they feel like we have differences on, and what they think that I really would love to have those kinds of dialogues when there's time and appropriate times for it.
So do you say that in the
Catch
you
me
don't think
outside.
there's
How
that
about
many
that?
differences? And like you're curious to see why they think there is, or you just want to
I would say
hear it from them.
I would say I would love to be more competitive about things in a way that's not vindictive. And which in my opinion, I don't think anybody in the coffee industry currently has ever been vindictive about anything that's going on. I would say that there's almost like more of a customer trope that's been perpetrated.
Sure.
But I mean, like, I'm not going to start a drive-through. Like, Cirque has that locked down. Like, that's not my job, and that's not my place. Like, they've got that little spot. People love it. They do what they're doing, and I'm going to let them do it, you know? And there's other companies that do other things really, really well. And I think that we've got our little niche that we fit. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm kind of a firm believer that, like, a rising tide raises all ships. And that if the coffee industry in Tulsa gets better, it means it's a better coffee industry for me. I would, if I was going to throw anything controversial out there, I would say I'd love to see all of our own baristas here in Tulsa repping and talking about how great everything in Tulsa is and not talking about how great other places around the United States are and how much better they're doing coffee, or looking at them for inspiration, and look at your own city and look at the own people that are around you and vibe with the people that are around you, because like those are the people you can count on. Like you can't count on the other people. And I mean,
That's interesting.
You can think about it, you can talk to them, but at the end of the day, like this is your stomping ground, and this is your territory, and this is like what you're representing. And I think that to miss that opportunity to be very explicit and be very particular about what you do as a company and who you are as a barista and what you want to represent, when there's so much versatility and so much opportunity in the city, I think that it would be silly to look at another city and say, I want to be like them. I think it's more important to say like figure out what we want to be. Well, which for me, I'm more than confident about what Doubleshot is, and I know like where we're heading,
as you
what
should
the next few years are going to be like. I don't work for a lot of the other companies in town. I don't work for them at all. I don't even do consulting for them or anything. I do have wholesale representations in different restaurants that I'm very proud of, and I'm very thankful that they trust me to help set them up for the best coffee experience they can offer their customers. But shoot, man, like all I want to see for Tulsa is for Tulsa to be Tulsa. I don't want to keep Tulsa weird. I want Tulsa to just be Tulsa. I don't want Tulsa to be any other city but Tulsa. And that's what I think is the most important thing that every other barista in Tulsa can understand and rep. Is
that leads
like,
perfectly into my
be a
last
Tulsa
question too.
barista.
Yeah.
Go for it.
But first, we are now having our glass the 2021 variety of Booker's bourbon. So this one is called the Bardstown batch. They each have their own unique name with their sticker and all that stuff. So it's a Jim Beam product. This is my first time to ever have Booker's. I am very hopeful.
Cheers, gentlemen.
I almost just like crashed that glass.
You were excited.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know he was right there. I was coming. Boom.
Is this a map or did my glass crack?
It is a map of Houston. I got it when I went for a bowl game or something down there. It was like in the welcome package at the hotel back in my previous life. But
as a ball player?
No, as a media member. I hope this is better than Old Tub, because Old Tub was also made by Jim Beam, and I specifically did not like Old Tub.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this smells like fire.
Oh, that's fucking delicious. I get so much sweetness on the back end of that. It's like a caramel goodness.
Man, and it's a smooth burn right in the chest. Not in
That's
the jaw.
the 125.5 proof that we're drinking, but it's not
that
like
is
an
really
overly
smooth for way high alcohol.
no water, no ice in that.
I was
either.
going to say, I was like, wait, hold on. You said what?
I just got
It's
warm.
definitely not what I was thinking it was going to be based off of taste.
What would you have put it at proof wise if you were going to guess?
Proof wise, definitely not bad.
Like 90?
Okay, I'm gonna say something really
yeah,
weird.
probably something somewhere closer to that for sure.
Because on the
way
sides of
smoother than I was
my
expecting.
cheek, I taste sweet
That
potato,
is so good.
like cinnamon sweet potato.
This to
Like
me,
you mean like Thanksgiving in the casserole
this
dish?
to me,
Yes,
this is the
absolutely.
perfect time of the calendar to be drinking this bourbon.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
absolutely.
I'm like, man, this is
Yeah.
like,
That's so good.
I would just bake the sweet potato and then put this on the side and just be like, have a bite and then eat, or like with a little lemon wedge, like how
Yeah.
Colin would have done.
Right.
Like Japanese sweet potato,
Right.
lemon wedge. This.
If it wasn't so expensive per bottle, I would say you'd fucking make like a syrup out of it or something.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and put it in the
That's
sweet
awesome.
potato. Yeah.
Or mix it with syrup and then put it on your waffle.
I get something different on the nose. Yeah, that would be good. I get something different on the nose than I do on the palate though with this. I almost get a banana-y note on the nose.
I was gonna say some sort of. I was
Like
gonna
Bananas
say
Foster.
squash or something.
To me, it's like Bananas Foster. It's like a sweet banana on the nose. Now also could be
This
like
is really cool.
my half allergy nose going.
No. You're
it's
you're
probably
not wrong.
helping you.
It might, yeah.
I get
That's-
a lot of spices
so good.
on the nose.
I'm so happy with that. I'm so much better than Old Tub.
I definitely get
This
like,
is infinitely better
Yeah.
than Old Tub. Sorry, Old Tub.
No, I'm sorry, Old
but
Tub. Yeah.
no.
new tub.
New tub. It's the new tub.
New tub.
Were you about to say something to interrupt you?
Oh no! I was just gonna say, like, man, I pick up on spices for sure.
Yeah.
Like, especially like Christmas spices, like nutmeg, cinnamon,
Baking
vanilla,
spices, all that stuff. Yeah.
You know, definitely not like no one's picking up. I'm not picking up like fennel. I'm not picking
No.
up, you know, things like that or coriander. I'm picking up straight up, man, baking spices. Like this is like. Might as well like dissolve the gingerbread man.
Yeah.
And put them in my.
I'll tell
my
you guys,
glass.
if you like bourbon and you see this anywhere,
That is Christmas.
you pick that up.
Delicious.
Yeah. It is well worth the
What-
$89.
What's the hot candy? The red.
The Red Hots?
Red Hots.
Or the
Right on the nose,
hot
like
tamales.
right when
hot
you.
tamales too.
Yeah, hot tamales.
Give them a little like
Right off the nose.
I get a little cinnamon.
kitchen
Yeah.
bag
Right off the
or
nose.
Yeah. Now that you say that, I get that
movie
too.
theater
Yeah.
bag.
That's delicious. All right. Last question. We'll let you get out of here. You have a fiance to go home to.
Shucks.
How about that word?
It is honestly
Yeah.
the most surreal thing in the world.
I used
Like,
the F word on you.
dude. I ran into some friends over the weekend. It was my first time when they were like, "What'd you get into this weekend? Like, what's going on?" I was like, "Well, it was Natalie's 30th birthday," and I was like, hesitated. So I was like, "I proposed, so she's my fiance now," and they were like, "What?" Yeah, it was. I mean, it's really surreal. And, I mean, hands down. I mean, one of the coolest things I've done in my whole life.
That's
Like,
awesome.
Truly.
I proposed. What is this? December.
What is today? That's a great question.
Yeah, December 20th. I would have.
Yeah, today's the no.
Oh, it
It
is.
is the 20th.
It is the 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have proposed. Oh gosh, October 17th of 2010.
Okay.
Shoot.
So I'm 11 years in.
What's funny is I was married prior to you. Once in my life, I
Yeah.
got married. Still friends with my ex. Just wasn't meant to be.
That's
Whatever.
fine.
All
Yeah.
good. But we got married 08, 01, 08. That's just an easy one to remember.
That is a way easy one
Yeah.
to remember.
Yeah.
08, 01, 08.
Yeah. It was very easy to remember. And it's still weird because like she'll message me on that day sometimes and be like,
Hi.
like, what do you say? Like, not happy anniversary, but just like, hi, it's
It's a
August
thing.
1st. It's like, yeah, it is.
Happy August 1st, Juan.
right.
We got married August 13th,
There you go.
2011.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, so we'll let you go on this. You
yeah.
talked about Tulsa staying Tulsa, not being, keeping Tulsa weird, culture being what it is and kind of its own thing, right?
Oh yeah,
So in addition to coffee, you DJ.
yeah, I do actually.
Right. Table talk.
when I have time, yeah.
When you have time. So I think you were in a unique position to actually define what that culture is, more so than most people we've talked to, because not only do you see thousands of people a day and converse with them and get a feel for the type of people that live in Tulsa, you also see them with their hair down when you're DJing for them or when you're going to Vitus and hanging out with Tanner or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So if you were to define Tulsa's culture and where you hope it goes, what would that be?
Oh man, that's easily one of the toughest questions ever because Tulsa has such a great diversity of, I would say niche cultures. And I don't mean that in a weird way. I think what we're so good at in this city is everybody being willing to bridge the gap between cultures and between concepts and between ideas. And I think we have a thriving, like house culture, thriving hip hop culture. I think we have a thriving, all aspects of music are.
It's popping.
I mean, it's unreal. I mean, I can't say enough about it. I feel like I shouldn't even start naming names because there's so many different parts of Tulsa that are doing such a great job. That I would hate to start listing them off and leave somebody out. But I mean, between like things like the Fire and Little Africa Project to Mercury Lounge doing such an amazing job of hosting and making a place for musicians to things that are always happening at the Canes to. I mean, every
I heard
little,
Vanguard is
I was gonna say
expanding.
Vanguard
really?
does amazing stuff.
Yeah.
In which direction?
To
The violin shop?
south. Ooh, I hope not.
Because that's what's south of them, right?
They're breaking down some wall.
Well, they're not going north because that's Hunt Club.
Yeah.
So they'd have to go south. And I think
Yeah.
that's the violin shop. I love walking by that place.
Do they have
Yeah,
more
me
room
too.
out towards the alley?
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe.
the West
But
Side alley?
they're
Yeah,
expanding. Anyways,
Interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah,
No. I mean, that's part of it, though. I mean, that's like one of the downtown venues and areas where things happen. And I would just say that as a music city, as a food city, as a drink city, as a culture city, Tulsa is only going to continue with leaps and bounds. And I think the more of our own people that are there for every bit of it and are willing to support it as aggressively and as intentionally as they can, they will see the city that they've always wanted, if not more than they've wanted, come to fruition. Because I would hate to say that we're there. That's not fair to everybody that's still putting in the work.
We're not even
For sure.
That's not
For
fair
sure.
to everybody that still has hopes and dreams that haven't been met yet. We have so much still left to do to continue to make Tulsa what Tulsa is supposed to be. I mean, we're killing it here. And I think we're doing such a great job when it comes, again, to music, to food, to culture, to job opportunities. But we need to keep going. We need to keep moving forward.
Do you think that Tulsa's community is getting rich because of going off of your DJing and this, that, and the other? But it seems like the people that are diving into their passions are just diving deeper. Mm-hmm. And we don't have very many splinters.
Mm.
Like my
What do you mean by splinter?
Like I make beer. That is my passion, and I really don't have like.
Are you talking
Sure,
about me? Because I could almost be a splinter because I have this, but then I also
your
am
Ninja
a
Turtles?
Turtles.
No, your passion, and honestly, we need to go into your passion on the podcast some more. But you don't splinter.
Okay.
Your passion is media, and this is why the podcast actually exists and is giving a voice for the Tulsa community. So your passion is coffee. It might have splintered off into a little bit of DJing, but
I did
music before I did coffee.
I think it's almost
honest.
customer service
I would say
customer
honestly,
service.
man, like my whole thing is
Yeah.
I want to take care of people.
in a way that the DJing does that, as does the different, completely different avenues, right?
yeah.
I would say coffee is just, but like, I got lucky enough to get hooked up with somebody who gets me. Like me and Ryan are just I couldn't ask for a better teammate. I mean, the guy gets me and gives me a lot of room to operate in a way that I need to operate for what my side of the business and what I do for him to be successful. And I'm really thankful for that.
But
I have a really good relationship with him.
Yeah, we've got good bartenders in Tulsa. We've got good baristas. We've got good brewers. We've got good chefs. Yeah. And once people find their avenue within this town, it's like they stick there. Even though, even if they go into Italian cooking or French cooking or whatever it may be, like my avenue is now beer. Right. I don't think I'm going to splinter from that.
Mm. That's interesting. And you think that's non-splintering? How does that then play into the culture of a city? Like it helps define it because you have like certain lanes that people stay in? Or how would you equate that to?
I don't know. I think it's because people stay in their lane, maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think that's why it makes it strong. Like Elliot was talking about, his definition of what he's supposed to be for Tulsa. And he is supposed to make
Which the answer
Tulsa,
is mayor.
Yeah, the answer is mayor. But like his answer was, how can I make Tulsa better?
Yeah.
And it is by doing what he does. Running and managing restaurants. It's not running and managing banks.
Right.
It's restaurants for him. It's coffee shops for you or customer service.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The customer I think that's really special. Mm. Anyways.
No, that's interesting.
I think you're absolutely right, man. I think that the sooner that people in customer service realize that like their real job is managing expectations and taking care of people, then their jobs are going to be 10 times easier.
Yeah.
Because like making drinks and making things taste good, for the most part, I think will make itself happen. But taking care of people and making people feel good and making people feel like you want them around is so much harder.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
that's
important.
That's a good place to end it right there.
Yeah, that
was good.
That's a great little place to end.
When can people see you and where?
They can see me Monday through Friday at Doubleshot Coffee Company. You can expect me there from sun up to sundown. I'm there to take care of you, and I'm there to make sure that the people that are taking care of you are taken care of so that they can take care of you.
And if you go in on a Monday, Brian loves it if you knock on the window like he's a zoo animal.
Please.
While he's roasting beans.
Please do it. Please make sure that he knows that you are watching him and that he knows that he is.
And you can give him one of
being
these, like, I'm watching you. Watching you.
He loves that. Get every one of them rocks out before we pass them on to the D-Stoner.
Right.
It makes it a lot more difficult when there's a lot of rocks on them. It's a nice story for somebody that actually spends like 40 hours doing something a week, as opposed to like somebody who shows up and is like,
yeah.
Like the fact that he comes in and actually does work is pretty nice. So,
well, man, cheers.
Cheers.
And by the way, this gets hotter as it like sits in the air.
My mouth is now numb.
Yeah. Like every sip I take now, I feel it go back up into my sinuses, which is great because it's totally cleared them out. So
there you go.
It's just like a really strong Busch Light to me.
But if you make it out to Doubleshot, they've got so many different coffees that are excellent. And
they do.
And take advantage of the baristas there because they are very talented.
And might I recommend the cranberry orange breakfast sandwich?
Oh, it's so
that's
good.
My go-to.
Yep.
Once a week, though. It's like a treat. Usually like Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
And John Moss can have one breakfast sandwich a week as a treat.
Their French toast,
which isn't in there all the time.
It's until noon. We make the brioche in-house. That we make the French toast. It's made from scratch.
Oh, man.
But then I was going to say I recommend also buying one of the chocolate bars that is sitting by the register.
Which are also produced by another local Tulsa company that we work with, Glacier Confection, to make those chocolate bars.
Shout out Katie Mabry.
So no joke. Like they've been so good to us, like helping us take care of those and make, like literally sourcing 4 different chocolate. Like seriously, I had no idea that.
So how does that work actually? Do you send them, because it has names that coincide with the coffee. So do you send them coffee grounds, or like how does that work?
We give them I would say pre-ground. It's the day that they're making the chocolate bars. They show up and we grind, when they walk through the door is when we will grind up the coffee to a specific size for them to use with the chocolate bars. And they will blend it with the chocolate bar, temper the chocolate bar, package the chocolate bar that day, the day we ground it, so that any sort of aromatic oil that had the opportunity to maybe be oxidized or had the opportunity to evaporate we're trying to lessen that amount as much as possible, so that when you get a chocolate bar, the texture's there, the snappiness of the chocolate's there, because I don't know if you guys know this, but if chocolate does not snap whenever you get it, it's not fresh. Ooh. Chocolate should be snappy. Well-tempered chocolate, fresh-made chocolate.
That's an adverb.
Should be snappy.
There's your adverb.
You should be able to literally like hold it up to your ear and it should go, or it should have like a noise, an audible noise. And that's like another thing that I think is important to note. And I wouldn't have ever known this until we started working with Glacier.
Yeah.
That chocolate has a freshness lifespan, just like coffee does, just like certain beers do, and just like certain foods do, you know?
There we go.
That's awesome. So you were episode number 9. Just so you know, Lisa from Farm Bar is episode 10. But also what we're doing for episode 10, we can go ahead and tell people now, because this is the official invitation.
Oh, you're the first to hear this.
You are the first to hear this. So episode 10 will take place.
If you made it this far in the podcast.
Right. At the cabin where Cabin Boys got their name, right? And
Am I
so
allowed to say that on the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh shit.
Yeah.
I guess you said fuck earlier. So fucking shit. Cabin Boys, cabin.
So as many people from the first 10 episodes that can make it will come out. We'll have there's going to be 2 or 3 chefs there that were on the show. So someone's going to want to cook.
And I will actually I have already been making a map of what I'm going to make for it, because I am going to cook something.
What a cool thing.
So you are officially invited. You made the first. So every 10th episode, we'll do that out at the cabin. So
absurd. Y'all are absurd. That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
So that'll be sometime, after the new year in January. So I'll give you a heads up.
Yeah, let me know.
Maybe a second or third week of January.
Yeah, something like that.
Cool coffee and more beer.
Done.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you,
Give
guys.
Natalie our best.
I will.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
man.
Thank you
I really
very much.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
We'll be right back after
Cheers,
the break.
guys.
Cheers.
And that is Andrew Jolly, the governor. Oh, but no, we're changing that. The czar.
Lieutenant?
We're going to say czar. Because
Czar.
that came up in conversation. So the czar of Doubleshot.
Right on.
New
Yeah.
business card, Andrew Jolly. The czar of Doubleshot.
You're going to have to print new business cards.
New business cards. That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of good beer, including I actually really enjoyed the Busch today.
Yeah. It
As
was a good
palate
palate
cleanser. It was
cleanser.
great. Yeah. Your pale tasted a lot better to me today. Might have been because of my mild allergy attack that I had mid-show.
Because of my first beer.
Because of your first beer. Fuck you. Because of your first beer. But yeah, like all in all, like that was a lot of fun. It was good conversation, good drinks, good people.
It was
fun.
It was really fun. Really good perspective and a completely different point of perspective within the service industry in Tulsa.
Absolutely.
We haven't done coffee yet.
We hadn't. Yeah. There'll be one more coming up in a couple weeks. We'll have one of the guys from Cirque on as well. So we'll just get, it's just fun to get differing views on where things are, where they stand, and where they're going.
Yeah. And I guess we broke the news. I'm excited to
episode 10.
have everyone out for episode 10
We're
out
gonna
at the cabin.
trash that cabin, bro.
Oh, my mom's already sweating.
No, we'll be good. We'll clean up. But you broke the news that you want to cook something.
Yeah.
Now, is this who were we talking to? Well, it was Noah. Noah wanted to pair some wine with some of your venison, right? Is that what you're thinking?
So I will be doing something with venison.
Nice.
And the first, I'm going to make it for 12 people. And so hopefully, whoever comes first, or we can just do smaller portions,
right?
Will have a dish that is South African.
And
we will, I want to talk about that on the 10th episode.
We will, absolutely. So that will be second or third week in January. So now we can tell you Merry Christmas. Because
Merry
you
Christmas,
will
everyone.
Not see us until after that. Happy holidays, bro.
So
Merry Christmas, Andrew Jolly.
Yeah. Cheers.
And we'll see you from the cabin for episode 10, right?
Right on.
All right.
Cheers,
Sounds
good. Cheers. Thank you.